Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought I'd pop by and create something very simple. Just a nice simple idea, nothing too complicated, mainly because I can't manage complicated at the moment. So I'm going to start with using the background elements TE11. And what I'm doing is I'm working on Pink Frog Smooth Card 300 GSM, and this is 3.5 inches by 7. I've then got a black mat 3 3/4 by 7 1/4, like so, and then I've got a card blank 4.5 by 8, so that it's a little bit bigger, and it's all Pink Frog card. So I'm going to start with the piece that we're working on, which is 3.5 by 7. And what I'm going to do is add some random stamping. Now, I'm not completely organised because I just came upstairs when I'd got a little bit of strength and just thought, right, I'm just going to do a little bit of creating. So I'm going to use my Versamark ink. Again, I've got no copy paper. What a hopeless case I am. There we go. Get our copy paper. Shuffle the chair for the 50th time. So I'm going to add some random stamping to the background. So I'm not going to think about it too much, but I do love the elements in this stamp. And I think it's one of those stamps that doesn't date. So we'll just take our Versamark ink and we'll just add some background stamping. Now, don't be too sort of regimented about it. I'm not going to press too hard. Not that I can absolutely see anything on there. So what we'll do, just so that we can see where we're working. Now, if you've touched the card quite a few times, I suggest you wipe over that card with an anti-static bag, just to prevent any sort of fingerprints. Here we go. So we'll just ink the stamp up again. Again, just randomly, not sort of thinking about it too much. Just in a very random style. And you can see I don't press too hard. It just gives me a more freeing style if I don't press too much. Just flicking that card so that we take off any of the excess stray bits of embossing powder. And then we'll just heat that up. So we'll just give the heat tool a few seconds just to heat up. I don't know whether you can see just a little bit on there, but there's no point to me going to the card until I've just heated the heat tool up. And again, I also want some white paint, and have I got that? No, mind you, what's that there? I've got so many things on my desk, it's surprising what I've got. So we'll just give this a little heat, and I'm lifting it up a little bit because it's a little bit dull outside. Just makes it a little bit easier to see, she says confidently, although I can't see much at the moment. Once it starts to change, it changes quite quickly, and then you can just move your heat tool moving along the card, and make sure that you don't sit on that embossing too long. Once it starts to turn, just make sure that you move your heat tool. You can soon see when you've missed a bit. It's very obvious because you'll just see sort of a matte layer that's got no sheen to it, no glossiness. So let's just tilt that Yes, the light is not very good, I must admit, today. I thought it was quite bright, but it's not brilliant. Anyway, you'll see it when I add the colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my new blending tools, and they come in 5 sizes. So you've got a very tiny for the detail, then a little bit smaller, then it goes up in sizes. So I'm going to use the blending tools. Now I'm going to, the day before, I showed how the blending tools worked, and I used the Salty Ocean, and to be honest, that Salty Ocean is still on my desk, so I'm just going to go with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the ink. So what I do is I hold my fingers on the top of the head, and I just make sure that the application of ink, that I've got a good layer, a good application of ink to that ink blending tool. Now, if I just want a very light application, I can get a beautiful blend, and I can just have a very light application, like so. If I want it to be darker, grab the head of the brush and you can have it even darker. So it's entirely up to you. So I'm going to just add a little bit more darkness of that colour. And I'm not making a complicated design. What I'm doing is, because I've been out of action and I'm not my usual self after being unwell and still unwell, I want to do something simple, but it also looks, you know, lovely as well. So let's grab some kitchen roll. Do you know, I don't know what kitchen roll this is, but it's absolutely diabolical. Every time I tear it, it tears into little bits. So let's just get some big splatters on there. Let's wipe my hand. And we'll just let that do its thing for a few moments. And we'll just, if you just allow it to do its thing, we'll get those nice sort of bleached out areas. And because the Salty Ocean is a really good rich colour, you can see the effect of that bleaching out quite effectively on the background. Just beautiful. Look how much colour comes off, but it just bleaches out beautifully. And just look, the fine detail in that text. I just think the fine detail in that text is amazing. I absolutely love it. Let's just give that a waft. Now, I'm only giving it a waft because you've got that embossing on there, and you don't really want to overheat that and then affect the embossing. But I was told that you can't get that fine detail without using papers or whatever, but look at that. I think that is glorious. Personally, I think that as a background and nothing else is lovely in its own right. I just think it's just gorgeous. I love that. Let's just heat it from the back just to flatten that out a little bit. Now, if you let it dry naturally, you don't have to use your heat tool, and obviously your card won't curl. It's natural for it to curl if you're going to heat it with heat. Right, I really want, I've got this white on here, this Winsor & Newton gouache opaque paint. I think I'm going to use my fingers. Best tool in the house. Right. So now I've got some little punches. If you've got some little paper punches, you can sort of punch out some little circles. These are just with paper punches. They're not dies, these are paper punches. So it's entirely up to you. So let's use this one. So I'm going to use this Winsor & Newton gouache, mainly because, just going to be honest, that's what's on my desk. So any white paint, if you haven't got white paint, use some of your gesso. It gives you a little bit of a different look. So I must apologise for my nails. It's been the last thing on my mind So they do look a bit grotty at the moment. Believe me, I have washed and everything, but they don't look brilliant. So what we're doing now is we're building up a little background. So don't put them in the same place and don't be too regimented. I love this little tube of Winsor & Newton gouache because it's thick, it's rich, and it's just so easy to apply. Any white paint will do. Obviously, depending how rich and pigment it is and if it's opaque. If it's translucent, you're going to see the underneath through that, but that doesn't matter, it's still a background. So let's just add this there. And to be honest, it's so lovely to just do something. I must admit, this pneumonia has knocked me for 6. It's really shaken me up. So just doing something a little bit different, it's just lovely. And being creative, I don't think there's anything better, personally, if you've got the energy. You know, antibiotics are a wonderful thing, but boy, have they played havoc with my IBS. Right, so now I've got a smaller circle. So we're doing a bit like the bouquet effect. But with the bouquet effect, you sort of do some sort of lighter tones of white. So you've got different depths of colour. But I'm just going with it and enjoying. So I'm just adding, and I see you can tell I'm back because I'm leaning in the paint. Just wonderful. So just, and obviously if you're one of those crafters that absolutely does not like anything on your fingers, don't worry about it. Use a piece of kitchen roll or use a sponge, whatever makes it work for you. Let's just, I can tell I'm back because I'm getting paint everywhere. Let's just give this a little bit of a dry, just so that we don't lean our hands in it too much. And it's standard practice for Tracy. But what I mean is sort of this one here is a little bit lighter than that circle there. It just gives it more depth if you add different sort of depths of paint. So let's just add one here. Again, I put way more paint out than anybody needs. But this is opaque. And have you noticed it's not taking on the blue colour in the background? So if you wanted to paint your white highlights with this, it doesn't pick up the colour from the background, which is just lovely. Do I want a couple more? This is what I'm like all the time. What, do I want a couple more? And honestly, I'm hardly using any of that paint. So we've got 3, 6. I don't want an even number. I want an odd number. Not that, you know, it's detrimental, but just plays with my head. Let me just, there we go. There we go. So let's just plonk that on one side somewhere. One side, I've got no one side in the craft room at all. So I'll just give my fingers a bit of a wipe. And what's funny is I can see the blue on my finger, but the blue is not picked up on the gouache. So I'm just giving this a dry. Really need to give it a good dry. It'll just keep floating away from me like it does. It's important that you give that paint a dry. let's just bend that. And you've now got a beautiful, beautiful, simple background. And I'm just telling my card who's the boss and bending it the right way. So it's nice to have sort of some simple ideas. So what I was thinking then is that, you know, something red would go beautiful on here. So let's have one sort of low down here. And what I'm going to do then for that one is I'm going to use lumberjack plaid and candied apple. So I'm going to start with candied apple, use a smaller brush, and because I've got the white bristles, you can see what colour you're using instantly. And what I'm going to do with the candied apple is then apply the ink to the card. So I need to add more colour. So I'm adding layers of that colour. I'm just taking my time and adding layers. So then I can go to the lumberjack plaid. We're still in the reds, so that's fine. And just add a little bit more depth, just to, and you can lift it up and see if you've got exactly what you want. Now, before I lift that up, what you should do, so get that back in the right place. And what we'll do then is grab a little bit of kitchen roll, and we'll just grab a little bit of water on that kitchen roll, hold the stencil in place, and just wipe. Yes, it's wiping the stencil, that's fine, but what you're doing is you're just applying a little bit of moisture just to the floral. Can you see? You're still lifting some of that colour. Not that there's much room on my desk. So spritz the kitchen roll with water again. Don't soak it, and just sort of dab. Just dab. You're still getting plenty up. And that just gives the highlight. Can you see in those flowers? It makes sure that you've got that text all the way through. Now, if you want to, you can go back and add like the white back over there, but I like the fact the red is over the top. That's me personally. This is your project. Go for what makes you happy. So let's now create a little mask. Let's wipe this bit of paint up, even though I could use it really, but it's drying up now, so there's not much there. So let's just wipe that up so we're not in a mess. Right, so let's create a little mask. I want a mask of this floral, so I only need something pale, but look how pale I can go with the brushes. So I could have that in the background and then a darker one in the foreground, but this is just for a mask. Let's just cut this out. With it being a mask, you want to go edge to edge. I've got some lovely masking sheets from my friend Lynn, but I came upstairs and didn't have any plan. I came upstairs when the strength allowed me, so we're just going with the flow. So go right to the edge. Let's get rid of some of that copy paper. And once you've cut your masks out, you can save them. I save mine in a little wallet. It's surprising how many times you use them. Nice easy floral to cut out, nothing complicated. There we go. I always end up with bits everywhere. So now I can just place my mask onto the floral. Takes me ages to get a mask in the right place, so you'll have to bear with me. And then we look for the stencil, which is, you know, could be anywhere. And then, shall we have that one? There we go. So then we can bring in our candied apple. So take our candied apple and then we can blend our colour. If you're not happy using the stencil without any low-tack tape, then just add some low-tack tape. Again, look where I'm holding that blending brush. I'm holding it closer and right on the head because I want that richness of colour. I'm then going to go to lumberjack plaid, just to add a little bit more of the lumberjack plaid. And then this time, shall we try and remember to do it before we move the stencil? So a little bit of water on the kitchen roll. Don't rub it, just dab, just so you lift some of that colour. Again, just so we remove that colour just on the stems, just so that then if we remove, we've now got those beautiful florals on there. Lovely. Let me just yes, I do have to talk to myself. So which one needs masking? Which is, I'm gonna need two. I need another mask, but I'm not in any rush, so I can just take my time. Just take another mask. Again, just use the ink that's on there. But again, look at that lightness of colour. So if you want depth and layers, just brilliant. So again, just cutting another mask out. That's it, just cut. Remember to go right to the edges, don't leave a gap. And try not to stab yourself like with the scissors like I've just done. It hurts, especially if they've got a sharp point. There we go. So now we can bring our card, and can you see the one we did first is always uppermost? We mask that off and then the others go behind. So let's place this one on here. You can add some low tack tape behind the mask if you want, so that it's held into place. It's entirely up to you. There we go. And then we take our stencil again. And where do I want this to? I want it a bit higher up. And then just knock your mask That's why having them held in place with a little bit of low tack tape will save you a little bit of faffing. There you go. So again, I'm going to go to the candied apple. I'm just going to apply the candied apple. Again, you can hold this down with a piece of low tack tape. Make it far easier for yourself, and you won't have to hold things in place, especially if you've got dexterity problems. So then we'll use our lumberjack plaid, and we'll just add a little bit more of that colour. So then we'll take our kitchen roll again. Hopefully we can still use the same piece of kitchen roll. Of course we can. Little spritz of water, and then just dab. It's enough, and it'll just pick up. Obviously it's picking some of the red up off the stencil. But it just picks up some of that red so that you've got that white colour showing through. There we go. You can clean your stencil, or you can spritz it with water, and you can create another background. But I think that looks really, really lovely, really nice and simple, just what you need. So then I can add a little bit more detail just to my florals, she says. Yes, it's here. So we can use our Inktense pencil, and we can use a little bit of the grey Inktense pencil. Now, you need to be aware that you've got oxide ink on there, so it will react a little bit, but just be careful the amount of water you add. So I've got my water there. Let's first of all make sure, yeah, that's clean. So I'm sort of touching that Inktense pencil very lightly, just so that I don't react it too much, therefore I hardly touch, so therefore I don't react the oxide ink, and it just gives it a little bit more depth. And I like to do one at a time. I just think it's better to do the one at a time. That's that one. I'm trying to decide which petals to which. There we go. And just take, again, just touch that with a little bit of moisture. It's surprising how it just gives it some real dimension. It really sort of lifts that. So then go to our next flower, which is the one on the top. So we can go all the way around here, and let's just add a little bit more there with it being on the top. So we take and if you've you know, say you've got a little bit too much black on there, just use a little bit of kitchen roll and that will pick that up for you. Again, you can use your kitchen roll just to take off any excess. There we go. And it just gives that a little bit of dimension to the florals, which I just like. Let's just add a little bit of, there we go. So now I want to add a little bit of that white. Don't think I've got a fine enough paintbrush. I don't know what I've done with this one, but it's truly awful. I wonder if I could do it with that. Let's see. So I'm going to use a little bit of my gouache again. I'm trying to be a bit stingy with the paint because I really don't need much. I'm just going to take a little bit of this gouache just to add a little touch of white. To be honest, my brush, you couldn't get any worse if you tried. In fact, it's just diabolical. In fact, that just needs to go in the bin. Have I got any others? What's this one? Look, it's still got the packaging thing on there. Let's see if that's any better. A little bit better, yes. So let's just, so we're just adding some of this gouache just to the florals, just to give a little bit of highlight. I always think a little bit of a highlight really sort of helps sort of lift the design. So I'm just adding a few little dots to this. It just lifts it, and I do need some water just to, let's give that a rinse. Mainly because I'm just hopeless with my brushes. There we go. Now, if we add this to a black mat, it then really does begin to pop. So we'll just add this to a black mat. I was thinking, where's my adhesive? So we'll just add the adhesive. Just to our card. I always find it easier, much easier, just to pick that card up because I can make sure it just adheres properly. I can always use my copier paper, preferably the side we haven't had the embossing crystals on. Just to, there we go. And then let's add that to our card blank. Again, really sort of sings on there. There we go. So add that to there. This is why I lift it up, because if it moves, I can just see where the best place is just to add that. There we go. Let's have a few little splatters from our Posca pen. Now your Posca pen will pick up the colour from the oxides. But I do love a little bit of Posca pen. And I want to make sure that some goes on a little bit of the black card. So then what have we got? Let's just have a look. Cherish the little things, the wonder of nature. So the wonder of nature TE14, I think we'll have that little stamp on there. Just think that's a nice little sentiment. I don't want anything too overpowering. Don't want any big words, preferably not copy of paper, Tracy. Got any more? Let's use a bit of this. So then we haven't got our black. So I want the sentiment in black, just to echo the black in that black mat. Let's just take that, and you don't really need to press hard on that one. Let's place this back, mainly because I know what I'm like and I will lose it. So we'll cut our sentiment out. There we go. Trim that down a little bit, and let's trim. I'm only trimming it because I don't want anything too overpowering. So we'll then add the wonder of nature. Which I think is just a lovely sentiment. Just have that there. Just give that a few seconds. And then we can add our little bit of Inktense. And just blend that out. Just give that a nice blend. There we go. And if I lift that up, you can see the beautiful detail in that card. I absolutely adore that. So I hope you enjoyed that little play, and I hope you'll have a try for yourself. I'm really happy with that, and it's lovely just to get back to a little bit of craft. So I look forward to your interpretation. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.